Hi guys, welcome back again to another sewing tutorial. It's my pleasure to have you guys on this channel once again. If you're stopping for the first time, you're welcome. In today's video, we'll be learning how to make an illusion corset. If this is what you're interested in learning, watch the video to the end. So guys, let's get right into the tutorial. Okay, so I have my pattern paper on my work table, so I'll go ahead and establish my guideline, which is going to be my shoulder line. I'll simply come down by 1 inch and then I'll draw a straight line. From this point or from this line, I'll go ahead and take my vertical measurement, which is my bust, the underbust, the waist and the hip. The hip measurement is dependent on the client or you in person drafting. If the pattern is for you, you can decide to place it above your hip or directly on your hip. Okay, so for me, I marked mine directly a few inch, like 1 inch above my hip. So I'm working with 25 inches for the front pattern. I simply went ahead to label each line, which is the bust, underbust, waist and the hip. The next thing I'll simply do is to establish my neck width, which is the basic neckline, 3 inches, my shoulder, 7.5. For the shoulder slope, I came down by 1 inch and then I linked it to the neck width. The next thing I'll simply do is to establish my armhole, and since it's a corset blouse, you can do your direct armhole if you're going to be working with a sleeve. If it's just a corset, an inbuilt corset that you want, you can do your round armhole divided by 2, subtract 1 from your armhole measurement. Okay, but if you're working with a sleeve, you just work with your actual armhole. Okay, for some persons, they do their round bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. From some other people, they can do their round armhole divided by 2. So it all depends on what works for you. So the next thing I'll do is to mark my half bust span, which I'll be using for my contouring, which is your nipple to nipple divided by 2. For me, I'll be marking 4 inches. So you go ahead and mark your own. It varies for different people. It could be 3.5, it could be 3.75. So for this pattern, I'm working with 4 inches. And for the underbust contouring, I'm doing 1 inch on both sides. So I'll go ahead and link it the point and then contour it to the bust point, as you can see me doing. So guys, after contouring the underbust, the next thing I simply did was to contour the overbust. For the overbust contouring, I'll be working with 3.5 above my bust line. You can choose to work with 3 inches, 2.5 inches if you want your cleavage to be a bit revealing. So for 3.5, it is 8 inches from my shoulder line. Okay, so for the overbust contouring, I'm doing 0.75 on both sides, which is 1.5 inches if you combine two of the add it up. Okay, so I'll go ahead and contour it to the bust point. On the center front of my corset blouse, I'll be going in by 0.75. In most cases, I do 0.5 inches, which is 1 inch on a spread, but 0.75 will give us 1.5 inches on a spread. So from that point, I'll go up by 1.5 and then I'll connect it to the dart leg, one of the dart leg of the overbust, okay, as you can see me doing. And then I'll also link it to the dart leg on the bust. Okay, so for the other side of the corset blouse, to draft the other cup, I'll be marking the radius of my underbust plus 1 inch, and then on the chest line I'll be coming down by half an inch. I'm going to be linking this measurement I marked on my bust line to my chest line, and then I'll connect it to the other part of the dart leg above and below. So we have our corset cup. You can choose to make it a 3-part corset, or you can choose to leave it this way. Whichever way is fine. The next thing I'll simply do is to take my horizontal measurement. Won't be doing any seam allowance on this pattern. So I'll be replacing the dart intake on the chest line with my bust measurement. On my bust, I'll do the same. I'll mark my bust measurement plus the dart intake on the chest line, the underbust, the quarter of my underbust, plus my That intake, the waist measurement, you do the same. You take the quarter of your waist and you then add up your dart intake. The dart intake on the waistline is 2 inches. The dart intake on the hip is 2 inches, and then plus the quarter of your hip measurement. So I'll go ahead and link this point and label my cup as well. For the waist snatching, guys, I'll be snatching by 2 inches. I want to take away 2 inches from my total body measurement. So I'll be dividing 2 by 4, giving me half an inch. Half an inch is 0.5. So I'm going to be marking 0.5 inches on the waistline. I'll go up by 1 inch, which is very important, and then link it to my chest line and down to my hip line. So the shaded area is the snatched section. Okay, so for the bust dart, I came down by 1.5 inches, and then I linked it up to my bust point. Okay, your bust dart is the difference between your front waistline and your back waistline. It's very important for your cup. It gives it this perfect fit around your bust area. Okay, the importance of the bust dart cannot be overemphasized. Okay, in some cases I see some tutorials overlook not including the bust dart. You get, it's not as if there's an error, but there's a little bit of perfection it gives around the bust area. So I went ahead to blend after closing up my bust dart, and then I'll trim out the excess pattern paper, as you can see me doing. Okay, so if you don't understand this waist snatching calculation, you can drop your questions in the comment section. I'll be there to answer it, but it's so self-explanatory. Okay, so if I remove half an inch on one part of my body measurements, and then half an inch on the other side. For the front pattern, I've taken away 1 inch. For the back pattern, I'll take away half an inch on both sides. It's automatically, I've removed 2 inches from my round body measurement. Okay, so I'll go ahead and draft my back pattern. It's a simple back pattern without any darts. It's a dartless back pattern. So I'll go ahead and draw my shoulder line, which is a guide for me. From that point, I'll go ahead and mark my vertical measurement, which includes the chest line, the waist, and the hip measurement. These are the major lines for the back pattern, since we've been doing much contouring at the back. Okay, so I'll go ahead and impute my neck measurement and my shoulder measurement, which is the same for the front, my basic neckline and my actual shoulder measurement. I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. I'll go ahead and connect it to create my armhole, which is your round armhole divided by 2, which establishes your chest line. I'll mark the midpoint of that line, place my quarter of my bust measurements on the chest line, and then create a curve. In other words, establishing my armhole. The next thing I'll do is to take my body measurement. Like I mentioned, we're not imputing any darts for the back. I'll go ahead and take the quarter of my measurements, body measurement, and then connect the points. For the waist snatching on the back, at the back, the same. I removed 0.5 inches, took it up by 1 inch, and then link it to the chest and down to the hip. The curve on the chest line, you can choose to make it curvy or straight. So for me, I'm leaving mine as a straight line. And the next thing I'll do is to go in by 2.5 inches and then create a sharp V line, linking it down to my hip line. You can choose to make it as a straight line, or you can choose to create a V for your loops. Okay, for your corset loops. Okay, so after doing this, I'll go ahead and cut out the excess pattern paper. I'd like to mention that if you do not want to snatching is not compulsory. You can choose to ignore the snatching and then open up your center back this way. In most cases, you see some corset at the back, after creating their opening, after tying the ropes, it will be closed. It's because they did not snatch the they didn't snatch the corset. But when you do the snatching parts, you notice that the center back will be open. Okay, so that's just the difference between these two patterns. imputing your snatching, your waist snatching, and not imputing your waist snatching. It all depends on your client, how she wants her corset. Okay, so we have the front pattern and the back pattern together. You can see that when I place them together, you just have creates a there's a perfect fit for the front and the back. There's no form of alteration. So I'll go ahead and label it, the front pattern and the back pattern, after closing up the front pattern. So guys, if you have watched to this point, do not forget to like, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. We have other engaging tutorials. Please kindly watch our videos, and I'll be dropping the sewing tutorial as soon as possible. Thank you so much, guys.